Hey guys, I thought I'd do a video walk around on my Blue Elephant CNC 1325R. Talk about it a little bit and give you a good look at what's going on with it. So this is a 4x8 bed. It's been used quite a bit. I've been making a lot of puzzles for my grandkids. So kind of walk around, I guess. Answer the questions that I didn't get answered or had vague answers to. Let's take a look inside here. If you can see in there, they did a pretty good job. It's a pretty neat wiring job. It's pretty clean. This is the low end version of the routers that they sell. I didn't get the servos. These are just regular stepper motor drivers. Nothing fancy. I needed it for single phase power because I'm in a residential area. You can't get three phase and you're limited on how much power you have. So there's a few guys wanting these for their garages. This is actually in a 2-car garage, so it's kind of cramped. It's about the size of a small car. One of the questions I couldn't get answered were what exactly were the dimensions of the machines. I want to know if it fit in the garage. Over here is the lathe. It's actually on a solid slab of steel, so it's very heavy. I didn't know that either. I thought it was plastic or something when I was looking at it. It weighs about, I'd guess about 300 pounds. It might be more. Anyway, if you look at the covers on the ends, it looks like shoulders. Shoulder to shoulder on this thing is about 7 feet. Okay, the overall length is 118 inches to the front of the table. So for your footprint, you would figure it for at least to 7 foot wide to clear everything. Your valves are down here to control the vacuum table. It's got a gauge. It's kind of in a spot where you can't see it too well. That's why I added gauges to my pumps. And I forget how long I think I got the 200 millimeter lathe option. I think they come with 100, so the chuck I think is a 200. I did get the taller gantry. This one is a 300 millimeter. I think 200 is standard. It was only like 150 bucks more to get it taller, so I did that in case I wanted to add other things that I wanted to clear. And I did add the arm. It didn't come with the arm, and I'm running Mach 3, so the screen probably looks familiar to the guys that are running plasma. Anyway, I used my plasma table to cut out the brackets and everything on here to hold the computer. So it's kind of and it's adjustable. You can have the display facing the end of the table, or you can loosen up the handle and then swivel it. And it's got to stop so it doesn't interfere with the action on the gantry. So now I'll back up so you can see. Like I said, small garage, not a lot of room to back up. So there's the whole machine. Alright. I cut out the keyboard tray too. I fabbed all this stuff on the plasma table. This actually will go a little bit in if you like, but then you have to be careful not to get it in the way of the gantry. So go back and lock it. Alright, and the computer on this one, actually I did this one first and then I copied it for my plasma table. So I'm using a ThinkCenter. It's a desktop computer size of a fat cell phone, and I have a TP-Link USB hub that's a powered hub to drive it, and I added a light to it. What else did I add to it? Oh, Vista dongle. These are like the best ones. They're kind of spendy, like 300 some bucks, but they're worth it. They're very accurate. And I did use the wired version because there's a delay in the wireless ones, and if you get radio noise, you're going to tear up some stuff with this if it hits bottom. If it was a plasma table and it hits bottom, it doesn't really tear up a lot of stuff, but this thing can do a lot of damage. So I went with Vista. Right, let's bring it up. Okay, go ahead and drag him back here. I'll take this off. Alright, I'll go back up here and get a height measurement. Okay, this is 74 inches tall from the floor to the top of the cover on the Z-axis. That was one question I couldn't get a solid answer on when I was trying to get one of these. It's a 100 millimeter mount for the motor. I'm thinking of putting a bigger one on that's automatic tool change, but that's kind of in the works right now. I'll go and modify it. So yeah, if you want automatic tool change, you might just go ahead and buy it with it, because it costs almost as much to convert it as it does just buy it with it originally. I'm gonna run her out. So far it's been a really good machine. I haven't had any trouble with it. It's cut out everything like I wanted. In fact, as low power as that motor is, I'm surprised what it does do. This is a, what did I get? The 3.7, 3.2 kilowatt motor? I forget. It's standard motor. I think the freak drive is 3.7 and the motor is 3.2, because it works out to like 4 horsepower. So the cabling comes through here. I ran a little extra stuff for my junk, so, and it's water cooled. And I did convert to the larger lines, because you'll end up with too much back pressure with the small lines. So I ran the bigger lines that come with the cooler. Well, the lines didn't come with the cooler, but that's the size they lead out with. And it comes with the chiller. It's not really a chiller as far as it doesn't have a Freon system in it. It's just a heat exchanger. So it has a radiator with a fan, but no Freon or anything. And these are the pumps that I bought with it. Gotta get down here. They're not set up or anything. They'll just come on a pallet. It's up to you to hook them up however you want. As far as they go in series, but otherwise the rest of it you can do whatever. It has a regulator on it. So I put a filter on mine. A lot of guys aren't putting filters on them, but this is the bypass regulator down here, and it's set for 10 inches of mercury. If you run it, it'll actually run at 15 inches. You can get maybe 17 out of these if you crank them down all the way, but then you don't have enough air going through them and they overheat and burn the windings up in the motors. So the manufacturer suggests you keep them at 10. So that's what I do. They're at 10, and I didn't like how hot they were getting, even though they said it's normal. Anything you can keep cooler will last longer, so I put these big fans on here. These are from McMaster-Carr. These are 600 CFM fans, and they're really quiet for as big as they are. So I just made some adapters, something else I cut out on the plasma table. I made adapters to put the fans on to line up with the bolt pattern that's on the front of these pumps. You can't see them as I've got the little shroud over them. I've got temperature sensors on the pumps, on the front bearing, just to keep an eye on the housing temperature. And what else I got? I put the vacuum gauges on, and I put an hour meter on it. So I'm going to demo the vacuum blowers. They're normally set at 10 inches of mercury. They're not going to go that high because there's nothing on the table. Right now it's just going to leak through this MDF. About 5 max on that one. And pull it down. I'll go shut the valves off to show you. And you'll hear it going to bypass. So that sounds the bypass going off. So it's bypassing right around 10, what it should be doing, so the pumps don't burn up. This will be what you have if you have a brand new sheet of plywood on top of the MDF. see the gap. I'll turn it on and watch it pull down. See the MDF pull down. Turn it back off. There we go. So yeah, nothing on the table. It's leaking pretty good, but the MDF's all the way down, and that's the main thing. So your height doesn't change as it's cutting across the table. You should have enough vacuum to hold it down. Okay, we're going to do an Auto Tool Zero demo. Now this has been converted for the router. This isn't what came with the milling machine software. So here we go. So the Z-axis is on its way down. Grab your gauge block. Sorry, it's hard to do this one hand in a cell phone. Shaky videos. And that's it. Now there would have been a second attempt if it was for a milling machine to really zero it in for the accuracy. So right now, this is a 15 millimeter block, or gauge block. And it backs up 10 after it touches. So my Z-axis is set for plus 25 is where it is currently. Okay, and I did have to add the gauge block in here. It was removed, so on the probing screen for the milling machine, I added the gauge block height blocks here so you can enter in your gauge block thickness just like on the old screens. Otherwise the rest of the this is a really nice diagnostic screen. If you ever add any features, it's really nice seeing the stuff light up when you're trying to get your wiring done right. And then the G-code. Probing. And let's see, what else did I modify so far? Well, besides the arm, I did cut this 1/4 inch plate base out on the plasma table too, so that Lang mirror is really getting a lot of miles on it. Oh, they always have it home up front. And I do a lot of plywood stuff, so I didn't like it homing up front because when it finishes it goes to home. And then you always had to wheel it back to get it out of the way. So I did the safe Z moves to 0. If you hit stop, it'll go all the way up to 0. And that's machine coordinates, not work coordinates. Right now you can see Z's at 0. So I changed it by adding a second tab for the sensor, and they're located right here. That's just what the sensor's looking for, and then I had to reverse it in the software to tell it go to the other direction to home. But there's one up front here too, but the soft limits keep it from ever touching this one. But if it does, it would stop the machine anyway. It wouldn't let it crash. So we're going to go ahead and go reference all again. So you can watch what it does here. It's doing Z, and right now it's doing the lathe. I just leave the lathe plugged in because it looks for it and it won't finish the cycle if the lathe isn't plugged in. You can go in and shut it off, but it's not a big deal. It just lays by the table right now anyway. So I just leave it there. So get this thing on the tripod so I'm tired of holding it. We'll take a look under the machine in a minute at the plumbing. Trying to get as many things in as I can think of. You don't even want to talk about what it took to get it here. Actually, probably one of the things you do want to talk about. It wasn't easy, put it that way. It is very slow homing if it's homing to the other end, but that's okay. It's loud, so it's not hitting anything. It's very boring, but you still have to do it every time you turn it on. Okay, it's home. So now we can bring it back to play a little bit. I've checked the accuracy for position repeatability. It's really good. I've got a few video clips of that when I first got the table. I was checking everything. The only calibration that I noticed was out. It needed trimmed a little bit. It was however thick 2 sheets of paper is, it was out of trim. And I noticed it when I was cutting spoil board because you're using a big cutter. Yes, it's a hybrid table. So it has rail mounts, T-rails in between each section of vacuum. So you have dead zones in your spoil board where it's not being drawn down. And everybody keeps saying to tape it to the machine all the way around the board. You don't have to. If you just turn your spoil board upside down after you've cut one side, if you take painter's tape and tape out the dead areas where the T-rails or the T-track is, and make sure that when it's flipped back over that the tape is sitting on your seals and all your seals have been glued, because when I got the table I couldn't get a seal on it at all, and I found breaks in the seals where the seals had shrunk back. There were some 1/4-inch gaps here and there letting the vacuum through. So once I got it sealed up with super glue on the ends of the tubing and put it all back together and got the spoil board down, it sealed perfectly. And when there's a full sheet of plywood on here, I get maximum vacuum, so it's like leaking 0. I'm really happy with it now. But there's no reason to tape it to the table. It's just going to suck air from the bottom of the table because the table is not sealed between the vacuum zones. So it's got, what, 6? No, it's got 8. It's got 8 vacuum zones that are partitioned off. So, you know, it'll leak through your spoil board. It'll pull air right through your MDF like it's not there. But if you tape it, it helps just make it pull from the top of the MDF. So, anyway, there's one tip that took me a while to figure out. Alright, I'm going to see if we can take a look underneath. Got a flashlight. Hope it doesn't wash out the picture too bad. I'll show you what it looks like underneath. So there's your T-tracks. You can see there's plastic. The bed is plastic in between it. There's no seals, so the only seals are these tubes. They're pretty neat. They're like a fluorescent green. They have black caps, so when you don't have your spoil board on, you can tell if you have a cap out or not because it lights up green. It's pretty cool. This is really nice tubing they used. The older versions of this table had a lot of PVC pipe in it. Right now all you have are just the elbows over there to get it started onto the valves. So I think this is a better way to go. I don't know where they got these little spider guys. Those are pretty cool. It's very nice. I mean, I'm real happy with it. Just everything's been really good quality.